Welcome to the Business Men and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am so excited, yes, again, with another amazing professional speaker author who is on this platform in 2018 because she has stepped up to support small businesses and authors and also to help understand the need for healthy living using yoga techniques. So I'm really excited to have another yoga expert here on the podcast. I had one last year and definitely would love to see another one here in 2018. So if you missed 2018 being on this podcast, make sure that you sign up for 2019 BMWOC Call of Speakers that will be coming out at the end of the year, because this is definitely the platform to be on if you are looking to share what you know, share what you do, and if you have anything unique that you're doing, a talent that nobody else is doing, this is a platform that you want to use. And just in case you really didn't know what the purpose is, this podcast is to share our industry information and encourage the working professional to look at the different trends of industries that's going on, all the different professions that are changing over time. So make sure that you take a minute or 2 minutes or maybe even 5 minutes to look at all the pages and definitely take the time to listen to every single podcast interview that we're going to have on this platform, because we have so many amazing people from all over the country who has stepped up to share their information. So you can't get this anywhere else, so take advantage. Before we get into our interview today, we would like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, which are Casareno LLC, Sherrel Wood Empowers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solutions, J Coach International, Nels Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the Student Teacher, along with our other business affiliate sponsors and everybody who is making this event a success. So today we have on the podcast today Sherrell Moore Tucker, who is the founder of Sherrell Moore Tucker LLC, Breathe In, Stress Out. And her company works to show people how to manage daily stress, health, and social trauma by learning how to breathe in, stress out using yoga techniques. Sherrell is a certified natural health consultant through Trinity School of Natural Health and Thai Yoga Body Worker, and is also registered with the National Yoga Alliance and yoga with a specialization in so many different styles, including Hatha Yoga, Visana Flow Style, and all these other different techniques that people know about, including breathing, meditation, Palais, and modern dance. She is also the author of Transparent Faith and is a writing contributor for various magazines such as Faith and Fitness Magazine and many others. So I want you to continue reading her bio. And Sherrell, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, everybody. How you feeling today?
I think they're feeling great. I think they're feeling fantastic. I think they're ready to get their yoga on. What do you think?
Awesome. I think that's great. There's so many people that are trying yoga for the first time, and so I think that is awesome to kind of step out there and try something different.
Yeah, I actually loved it because I actually tried it with last year's podcast and I thought it was fantastic. I have some
hmm
body issues that prevents me from moving forward doing it, but I would love to find a way to get back into it. So before I get all into my little personal issues,
hmm
let's talk about you though. Let's tell everybody, where you're from, and was yoga always in your background, or were you working somewhere else before then? Just give us a little history about you.
Right. So the practice of yoga was something that I knew nothing about. While I was serving in the military, I was diagnosed with arthritis, and it had a significant impact just on the way that I was moving and living. Coming from a background full of movement. So all throughout college and high school, I was always involved in movement, whether it was running track, being a cheerleader, or whatever it was. I was always drawn to movement. I wouldn't consider myself necessarily an athlete, but I've always enjoyed movement, dance, all those various things that just really energized me and replenished me. And so when I was diagnosed with arthritis in the military, I was stricken just like with a lot of pain just from standing, simple things that really caused me to kind of take a step back, like, okay, like what's going on? And so from there, along with, the normal routine that people recommend, physical therapy, I went through physical therapy, and it helped some, but not really a lot. I really wanted to go back to my regular quality of life. And so with that, my primary care doctor recommended yoga, and that's kind of how I was drawn into the yoga wellness arena. And I discovered yoga, began to practice, and it had significant benefits, not just physical. Of course, my pain was alleviated, the stiffness and things that I was dealing with on a daily basis began to decrease as I continued to practice. But also the emotional and mental benefits were amazing as well. It's something that I didn't really anticipate. I went to it for the sole purpose, really, okay, is this something that's going to help my back issues? It's going to help me be able to move without so much pain. And I was like pleasantly surprised that it did all of those things and more. And so from that point forward, I began to share informally my journey with different people that I would meet. If people said they had some type of health ailment, I was like, hey, have you tried this thing called yoga? And some people were receptive, some people were not, but it's been a life-changing experience, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. So let me ask a couple questions. So
Mm-hmm.
the back injury or the arthritis that you were
Mm-hmm.
facing, was it due to just the physical exertion of you being in the military, or was this something that was kind of, developing before you
Mm-hmm.
became, were in the military, in other words?
Right. Right. My primary care doctor really couldn't pinpoint what was going on. I'm sure, just, the running, the rough marching, all those things probably had some type of impact, but there was no one in my family that was dealing with arthritis. And I wasn't like in some type of horrific accident or anything. I hadn't fallen. It just, to me, it kind of like just came out of the blue. I was running a PT test one day, and in the middle of it, it felt like my back was just collapsing, like I had no support, and it brought me to my knees. And at that time, I was like maybe around 23, 24. So it was very jarring because at that point in my life, still very young, I had not really had any significant health issues, right? Many times, when you're young, if there's something going on, you're able to recover pretty quickly. So I was used to being able to move and, maybe a little sprained ankle here or there, through cheerleading and running track. But this was something completely different. Like, this brought me to my knees. And
Hmm.
even after, icing and physical therapy, it was something that it didn't really seem like it was going away. And then once I began to take it a little bit more seriously, probably after a couple of months, like, okay, I think this is something I need to look into. There was an MRI that was done that was shown like I was pretty much bone on bone in my L1 and S1 and L5. And so it was degenerative joint disease, which is
Oh, wow.
commonly known as arthritis. And I
Mhm.
just couldn't believe it. Like, what? Like, this is something that old people get. Like, that's the first thing that came to my mind in
Wow.
my 20s. Like, I can't possibly have this. But that's what it was. And so I began to practice yoga, and it really helped. And I'm just so grateful to the practice, and that my doctor recommended something that was, probably something he didn't have to do that. He could have just kind of kept me in the normal range of more physical therapy, more, more cortisone shots, more this and that. But he was like, I think yoga might help. And, from the standpoint of just a physical body, there's a connection, and that's what I began to learn with yoga, that when you practice it, even though your intention may not be the emotional and the mental benefits, you're still going to reap those as well, even if that's not your intention. And that's what I began to see, that possibly, some of the physical exertion during my time in the military, along with maybe some deep held emotional issues that I had not dealt with, all were contributing factors probably to arthritis. And so, to answer your question, yes, I believe that, some of the physicality in the military, but along with emotions that weren't properly dealt with, all contribute to things that happen in your body. Because we are created mind, body, spirit. And so sometimes it's not just one particular thing. Sometimes it's many things. What you won't address in your life sometimes is manifested through the body. And what I began to understand is that sometimes there are root causes to some issues. Arthritis is one of the root causes. Can be failure to forgive other people, yourself, bitterness in your heart. And so I believe that there were some things that were brought to the forefront in my life that I needed to address. One, forgiving myself for some things, being a type A personality, very hard on myself, even when I made mistakes. I believe that those were definitely some contributing factors.
Wow. Well, thank you for being so candid and sharing that. And so I guess that kind of sort of answered my other question I was going to ask,
Hmm.
that this revelation of yoga helping you with your mind, body, and spirit just really impacted you in a way that you decided to just do this full time as a business, correct? And
Hmm.
so you just kind of took it, life on its own. And this also inspired you to seek certifications in natural health and things like that.
Hmm.
Is that how that came about?
It is. I mean, I'm still I'm working towards being a full time entrepreneur, so I'm not there quite yet, but I'm definitely on the path. But with that, I've definitely been able to hone in my niche area, which I'm very drawn and attracted towards people that deal with trauma. I mean, that's initially what brought me to the path of yoga, and many people have a kind of this concept of trauma having to be something traumatic, because in order to understand things, sometimes unbeknownst to us, we kind of put things in categories. So the most catastrophic stuff at the top, and then the more mundane and day-to-day stuff that we believe happens to everyday people is at the bottom. But health challenges, health trauma, social trauma, all of those things are still trauma. It doesn't matter whether you think it's a trauma that is at the top of the list or at the bottom. And so that is the niche area that I really focus on, whether someone is dealing with cancer, whether someone is dealing with social trauma, which could be a divorce, losing a job. All of those things can be traumatic and can manifest in the body. And my goal is to help people to understand how trauma is processed in the body, so that they can better have this life that they want to live. It doesn't mean that you ignore the trauma. You try not to live out the trauma every day, but you recognize it, you acknowledge it, and then you begin to slowly process it. And so many people, they go to maybe talk therapy, your traditional routine therapy, and now yoga is being seen as a movement type of therapy. So once you talk to your therapist, you also, there is the opportunity to then begin to trust your mind and your body again, to be able to process the trauma in a physical way and an emotional way in the body. And so
Hmm.
that's what I try to help people to understand and grapple with. When I mention like divorce, you're like, oh, well, how is that traumatic? That happens to a lot of people. But, when you look at a divorce is a dissolution of a marriage. A marriage is a covenant. And divorce, we know, rips families apart. Some people deal with it, in a way that is not so traumatic, and others don't. It's a shifting. It's a change of your norm. And so, yes, divorce, childbirth, losing a child, death, all of those things are traumatic, even though we look at them as, well, everybody has to deal with it. It doesn't mean it's any less traumatic. And some people are able to deal with things, and it doesn't necessarily manifest in the body when they allow themselves to process the trauma. And some people that maybe go through avoidance, or they just bury it or suppress it, it can arise as health issues.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And you're using yoga to help them work through that trauma in their
Absolutely.
body, to just release all of that tension and to kind of understand that they have a better control over those
Absolutely.
emotions. And that's great. So let's
Hmm.
just break down, because you have different specialties of yoga. So break down the different types of yoga that you do, and how they're different from each other.
Right. So hatha yoga is a gentle form of yoga. It's the yoga that really just focuses on basic postures in a slow and in a way that a beginner can really understand. The teacher usually gives you lots of verbal cues to help you with alignment, to help your body get into the posture and to reap the full benefits of it. And vinyasa flow, or sometimes just simply referred to as flow, is more of a rhythmic type of yoga where the breath is synchronized with the movement. It really looks like you're dancing on the mat. You can also, you probably have also seen vinyasa flow through maybe like a power yoga class where you're kind of moving at maybe a faster pace. I really recommend hatha yoga for beginners, especially if you're someone that is maybe not as active. Maybe you're not used to moving on the mat, because as much as we like to talk about all the beautiful, peaceful benefits of yoga, yoga is a weight-bearing practice. So there is some physicality to it, right? As much as,
Hmm.
you get your woosah on, but you can you can definitely build up a sweat, even if you do it in a chair. There's chair yoga. I do that with people as well, and you don't have to be a senior to do chair yoga. It just simply means you may have some mobility issues, and it's better suited for you to sit in a chair to enjoy the postures and to get the full benefits. So you have the hatha yoga. That's great for beginners with lots of alignment cues. You move a lot slower. With vinyasa flow, you may move a little faster because you're moving one breath to one movement. It looks like you're dancing on the mat. And then you just have all the different variations. You have chair yoga. You have yin. I teach a yin flow class. Yin yoga is where you hold a pose for time. And most of these postures or poses, yoga poses, are done on the mat. So you think of something simple like a seated forward fold, where you just sitting down on the mat with your legs straight, and you just lean your body forward. In yin yoga, you will hold the posture for maybe 3 to 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes. Usually when I'm working with beginners, we work at maybe holding the poses for a minute and a half first until we get used to it. And it's a beautiful practice in stillness where people that have really busy minds get a chance to just allow themselves to surrender mind, body, spirit. And that yin is really picking up in popularity with lots of people that have busy lives and they're on 10 all day. This allows them the opportunity to just really slow down and be still. And this is where the true
Hmm.
benefits come in, because even though it may seem like you're not doing a whole lot, in yin or any other form of yoga, it really is retraining the nervous system. Many of us don't realize we walk around in a fight or flight state all day long. And when you're in that state with the nervous system, your body and your organs are not working at their optimum level. There are some systems that's like, we're going to send all of our energy and everything to this area because we got to fight. We got to fight. And when you go to work every day and your boss frustrates you, you're not necessarily in a flight or flight state. That's something that you can control your response to the situation. Many of us need to learn how to go into the rest and digest state, which is the other state in opposition to the fight or flight. And that's where your body is at ease, that it's at peace, and it's able to properly digest not only food, but digest emotions and experiences and thoughts. And so that's really what the practice of yoga does. It allows you to really hone in on that rest and digest part of your nervous system that kicks in. And you begin to crave to be in that state more and more, which can help to decrease your stress and how you respond to experiences around you.
Wow. Okay. So that's a very interesting analogy that you made about the nervous system, because I don't think,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I would have never thought about yoga helping my nervous system at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing. And then the second thing, I can't even sit in a chair for 10 minutes very still, let alone try to do
Mm-hmm.
like a pose. I mean, I see that people do that and they're able to
Mm-hmm.
hold these poses for long periods of time. So, I you to me, I guess somebody who is not like in yoga have to understand that you really have to concentrate on every little part of your body to sustain that pose, because you're using like your muscles and your mind.
Mhm.
And so I can see how it could be a one in body type of motion when you talk about that. But as far
Mhm.
as the nervous system, I never thought, like you said, about the nervous system being a part of that. I think for
Mhm.
me, I'm thinking I have to be physically fit to hold this pose.
No.
I'm nowhere
No.
thinking about my nervous system at all. That is very
Mm-mm.
interesting.
Right, because the key to yoga is to be able to breathe. It has nothing to do with your physical ability, your dress size, your weight, or how flexible you are. That's the
Mm.
misconception. And just because
Oh.
a certain group of people seem to continuously come up in social media and magazines and pictures does not mean that it's not for everyone. Yoga is for everybody. Everybody may not like yoga, but everybody can do yoga as long as you're breathing. You just have to really find the right teacher and the right class for you. You have people now that are in hospitals taking yoga, whether they're going through chemotherapy and they're doing yoga in the chair where they're simply breathing and meditating. When you sit and you breathe and meditate, that is a part of yoga. Yoga does not have to be the physical movement, but yoga really is about being able to be still and to connect mind, body, spirit. That can be through meditation. That can be through 5 minutes of deep breathing. That's where you reap the benefits for the nervous system, because a lot of yoga classes, I know the ones that I teach, we really focus a lot on breath work, taking full, deep body breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth or the nose. That is your connector to the mind, the body, and the spirit, and also the nervous system, right? So when you are
Okay.
breathing,
Mm-hmm.
deeply and slowly,
Mm-hmm.
it's sending a signal to your mind that, okay, I'm calm, everything is okay, I'm safe, and then the body begins to open up because now it feels safe. Many times when you're angry, what is the first thing someone tells you? Be calm
Yeah.
and breathe, because
Be
your
calm
breathing
and
begins to
breathe.
pick up. So when you're breathing really fast, that sends a signal to your brain, which is connected to your spine, your nervous system, right? That says, I'm in danger. I'm not safe. Something is wrong. And so when you really
Mm.
begin to go to yoga and you focus on deep breathing, it puts you in that rest and digest state, which is calming and soothing to the nervous system so that your organs can work at the optimum level. These are the things you may not hear in a typical yoga class, but these are the types of things that I try to interject in my classes, maybe a few minutes here and there. When I'm doing Facebook Lives, when I'm doing speaking engagements, I try to give a little bit more context to yoga so that people don't think that it's just another physical modality.
Yeah.
I really hate when people put it in that category. It's not just a physical fitness class. It's a mind-body class, similar
Gotcha.
to maybe a Pilates, a
Mm-hmm.
meditation class. Is totally different, because the way that I teach yoga, it's not about losing weight or getting a six-pack or a yoga booty. It's really about helping you to decrease stress, learning how to breathe
Mm-hmm.
so that you can be able to pause and make better decisions about your life. And so
Okay.
that's really
Nice.
the overarching kind of
Kind of
theme
thing.
of yoga. Yeah,
Okay, so where do you have
yeah.
most of your classes where you teach? You mentioned Facebook and things like
Mhm.
that. So where do you go? Do you go to organizations, small
Mhm.
businesses? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so just to keep my connection with the community, I teach local classes here in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, in Upper Marlboro, Lanham, and Clinton area. I also work with different healthcare providers providing yoga to teachers here in Prince George's County, Maryland, working with different businesses that are interested in self-care and team building aspects to wellness. And so I've been given some great opportunities to meet businesses where they are, come and teach a course on meditation, do seminars. I've worked with nonprofits, just to bring a little bit more context and awareness around this big word wellness. What does we hear that word everywhere, and people want to know kind of what it means and what does it mean in my world? How does it help me with my job? And I've been able to be provided with some of those opportunities to bring a little bit more context and a little bit more practicality to wellness and how accessible it is, even while you're at work.
Okay, fabulous. And
Yeah.
so, in terms of being a yoga instructor as a career, speaking to those who have heard everything that you said thus far, the mind, body, spirit, and all of that, if someone wanted to become a yoga instructor just as a career standpoint, what three pieces of advice would you give them just to either get started? Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they have gotten started, but they're feeling like they're not really moving forward. Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
some of those seasoned people that are out there that you feel like that maybe this is something that has come up in your experience that you can share with them.
Right. I would definitely say, as a yoga instructor, to always be a student first. So I always take opportunities to pour back into myself, whether it's through my own personal research, a workshop, or a class that I would like to take with someone else that I admire or someone that inspires me. So always be a student. Always be open to learning something new. I would also give a piece of advice to just be rooted and grounded in service. I know that it's very easy to focus on, these different aspects of business, but first and foremost, when offering yoga, be mindful of your mindset and allow it to be service oriented in all that you do. And I think that you can't go wrong there. And then the other thing that I would say is very practical, but sometimes we can forget in whatever modality, whether you're a yoga teacher or you're an artist or entrepreneur in another field, is to make sure that what the service that you're providing, that you're also providing it for yourself. So you can get very busy as a yoga instructor and whatever other modalities you're working in and forget about yourself. So for myself, I make sure that I do have a very strong home practice. So I practice on my own. I practice basically what I preach. I make sure that I get my meditation in. It may not be every day, but I try to make sure that I have my own consistent practice from which I can speak. Right? So whatever is in you will come out in your speaking, in your talks, in your sessions. And so you want to be able to be poured into, know that you're serving other people, and that you also have your own practice of self-care. That way you can continue to serve. When you're not serving yourself, when you're not providing yourself with self-care, what usually happens? Burnout, right? And so even if you have experienced burnout, that's okay. Jump back on the wagon, know what you have to do, implement maybe a few hours a day or one day a week where it's all about you and some type of self-care that resonates with you and your spirit to make sure that you are replenished, to make sure that you have the energy to move forward and share, and that is not from a place where you feel depleted.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. Those are really great tips. Okay, so now that we talked about yoga, let's get into this book that you've written. You've written a book
Mm-hmm.
called Transparent Faith, and you have also been a contributor with several magazines, including Faith and Fitness and so many
Mm-hmm.
others. So, talk about the book. How did you come up with the book and what
Mm-hmm.
the purpose is?
Right. So the book is called Transparent Faith: Lessons Learned from the Plan of Faith, and I wrote the book to give snippets of my journey into my reconciled relationship back with Christ. And so it really is, I call it my own personal love story. I grew up in the church very young and always had this idea of God and perfection, and that I just couldn't reach that level of perfection. So when I went off to college, I strayed away from the church. I didn't really go to church anymore, and I didn't really have a spiritual foundation, and kind of just began to focus on me, kind of maybe part of that me generation, my degree, my career, my. And I found myself in a state like many women where I was able to attain, my goals and my dreams. One of my goals was to complete my master's degree by the time I turned 30. I was 1 year shy of that, so I did get my master's degree by the time I was 31. But along with that, what was sacrificed was sometimes my state of mind, my willingness to sacrifice my body, not take care of myself in the process, and not really having a spiritual backing. Also, I believe that some of that led to, the diagnosis with arthritis. But once I was able to obtain those things, and I was able to just kind of sit with myself and be quiet, I realized that with all that I attained and I had been working for, it really didn't have a significant meaning like I thought it did, because the spiritual part of myself was not being fed. And so I began to uh, try to reconcile my relationship with Christ. I began to pray. I found a church, and everything, my life became so much more richer. But I was approaching Christianity and my faith from the standpoint not of a child or of a teenager, but as an adult that had experienced life and had experienced it on my own, not looking for God's help or anyone's help. And now I was coming back broken with some experiences, and so the God that I now knew was very different, or he looked different because I was different. And so Transparent Faith is really a book about me being transparent with where I was, and being transparent with God, and how that beautiful relationship can blossom and open with new awareness and new experiences. And it's really for those that are like, hey, what is this relationship with God about? Like, how can that help me? This book is a very easy and quick read to kind of help someone with answering some of those questions like I had.
Wonderful. And so, can they purchase this book on your website, or can they purchase this
Yeah.
on Amazon? Because I think it's really important that what I'm hearing and what I want everybody to hear, what you said in the whole interview, is that it's really a true body, mind, and spirit to true
Mhm.
health. Because you're taking, things, experience that you had for arthritis, and you found a way to resolve that with yoga, at least, manage it, because arthritis is
Mhm.
something that will never go away, but you're able to, be able to manage whatever that you have going on with your body through yoga. And that is also a tie to mind, body, and spirit. And then you kind of teach people along the way, and you broke it down to the finite of that's what it is. And what I loved about what you said in your whole entire interview is how it really affects the nervous system, your brain, your breathing,
Mhm.
your blood flow, because like you said, a lot of people don't explain it that way. And all I hear from my side is that, it's a great way to lose weight. It's a great way to,
Right.
be fit. It's a great way to, get your body up to speed if you're not able to do physical exercise on a regular basis.
Mhm.
It's a great way to stretch your muscles if you having issues with your muscles. You don't hear the breakdown. And that's what I really loved about your thing. And then you tie it all up with a book, which also talks about how you repair and mend your relationship with your spirit and with your Lord, or
Mhm.
whatever religion that you feel that
Mhm.
is best for you. And so I want people to really hear that, because in this year, I would say this year alone, we have a lot of people who is stepping up to speak out about health. And yours is just a perfect match to all the other things that people have said on this podcast. And so I really appreciate that. So are you involved in any other type of activities, conferences that you want people to come out and meet you? We know you're going to be at the Veterans Biz Up, y'all. She's
Yes.
going to be at Veterans Biz Up conference in August, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But are you involved in any other activity where you want people to come out and see you in person? And,
Mhm.
just give that information if you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, definitely you want to sign up for Vet Biz. It's going to be amazing, and you don't want to wait too late to get your tickets on that. But yeah, I'm also, there are opportunities to meet up with me to learn more about me. One of the events that's coming up very soon is in May. I'll be doing my first faith-based yoga retreat in Grenada, and it's a perfect Mother's Day gift if you don't have something already scheduled. We'll be meeting in Grenada May 10th through the 15th for 5 nights, 6 days of just spiritual renewal, taking an opportunity for ourselves as women to just rejuvenate, replenish ourselves through meditation and daily yoga and sisterhood. And so that's definitely something that if you can get there, I would love to meet you. I also have an opportunity where I'll be guest instructing with Rhonda Jones at her Christian meditation retreat in Mexico, and that will be happening in November. I believe November 4th through the 10th. We'll be calling all women with a vision to come out and learn how to manifest that vision through meditation and sisterhood and practical application in Mexico in the fall, just in time for 2019. And so you can learn all about these amazing events. I'll have some local events too. If you're like, okay, those things are really far away, but I'll be here locally providing events. I'm working now with a winery where I'm working on a winery and yoga series where we can learn about different wines, enjoy nature, practicing yoga outside. That'll be starting in June as well. But you can definitely go to my website at SherrelMooreTucker.com to learn about all that I'm doing. And definitely drop me a note if you have some questions and you're interested in, what I'm talking about, or maybe how to bring this information to your business. You can just click on the contact tab and shoot me an email so that we can stay connected. As well, on my website, you'll find my book. My book is also available on Amazon.com, along with my DVDs that are on my website and some amazing T-shirts.
All right, y'all got it. Now, there's no excuse now. We have somebody else that's telling you what you need to do. Okay. Well, I mean, she pretty much broke it down, and everything she said on this particular interview, we will have on her page the link to her website so that you can get a copy of her book. You can get a copy of her CDs. You can sign up for one of her local classes. You can go out to Grenada and the Caribbean, and check her out there and relax and have fun. So really, there is no excuse on us not being able to have the information we need to stay healthy. And that's really what it's all about. So, Sherrel, thank you so much for coming here. And yes, you're going to be at the Veterans Biz Up Conference, which is on August 18th, 2018 at the Holiday Inn Hotel in College Park, Maryland. So it is free for attendees. Please get your ticket early because we only have so many spots. We have enough spots for about maybe 200 people. So make sure you get your ticket now to secure your spot. And definitely would love to see you, Sherrel, on some other stuff here that's locally. So definitely have to work with you to bring a little bit more of this type of education to our students, to people who are in the neighborhood. And maybe we could do something together with students and have like a student yoga thing going on, But yeah, exactly. And so for everybody who's listening, feel free to reach out to Sherrel to help her out with her yoga, because she is a business and she can't do it without you. So make sure you reach out to her and all the other health professionals that is on this podcast. Sherrel, thank you so much for being on this platform. It was definitely a pleasure to have you on here. I learned a lot. I can tell you that.
Well, great. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to see you soon at that bit.
That's right.